And we're live. Welcome to the LGBTQ Business Podcast. My name is Jamie, and here we are, episode 1. I am lucky enough to be asking the questions of our resident expert, entrepreneur and founder of Titanology, Stefan. Before we jump in properly, I wanted to say a couple of context-setting words. Titanology, Stefan's coaching company, has been helping members of the LGBTQ community turn vague passions into businesses. And when Stefan approached me about this podcast, I thought a couple of things. The first, and totally selfishly, is that I run a business, a podcast agency luckily enough, that was and continues to be a passion project. And having the types of conversations that we're going to be having would answer a lot of my practical questions. And the second emerged when we were doing some research into what already exists. There isn't really a podcast for the LGBTQ community that's aimed exclusively at helping turn side hustles into full-time jobs. And that's what this pod is going to be. So, with that said and done, I would like to introduce Stefan. Stefan, hey mate.
Hey Jamie. Yeah, this is exciting. The first episode of something completely new. While we're going to talk about something that we're both passionate about is awesome.
Yeah, man, and there's a niche here, right? Like, 2021 and 2020 with the pandemic were the eras of people going, God, wouldn't it be cool to change my side hustle into a full-time gig? And this is a podcast aimed at doing exclusively that. So today, all we're going to do is set the scene. And we're going to talk about Overwhelm. Now, Overwhelm is effectively the starting point for our listeners. You know, overwhelm in business, you just don't know where to get started. So all we're going to do today is we're just going to ask the question in various ways. Why is overwhelm so common in the first place?
Yeah, overwhelm. I mean, I've gone through it. I think everybody that is starting a new business or is even thinking about it, not even doing it already, is already getting overwhelmed by all the options that they have, all the stuff that they should be doing, because there's so much you can do. And people start to compare themselves with other people that are already doing it. And they see their success, they see what they're doing, and they feel like, oh my God, they are doing so much things, they have so much followers, they are doing podcasts, they are doing social media posts, videos, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, emails. I wouldn't even know where to start, right? And I know when COVID hit for me, it was really from the same feeling that I had back then is okay, I need to shift, but where do I start? What do I do? Even the idea about what should I do? I mean, we all have a passion, but can we make a business out of that? So all of that is coming all at once. And even if you already have a kind of a business, that's still there until a certain point that you reach that you feel like people are coming to you, right? But until then, it's still very overwhelming because there's so much to do.
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on the Instagram, TikTok, video, YouTube, podcast points. The brilliant thing about democratized social media is you really can do anything from your bedroom. The problem is you then look at what exists and you go, fuck, there's no way I'm going to be able to replicate all of that. But even before then, we should talk about the whole question of, okay, I have a passion. Is this even something that I should think about doing? Because initially it's overwhelming to go... One more time. Because initially the big question is whether it's even something worth pursuing. How do you tend to think about that question when potential clients come to you and say, look, I'm interested in bowling, but I just don't know that I can make a business around bowling. And, you know, my full-time gig is management consulting. How do you approach that question in the first instance?
Yeah, that's the important question. And that's something that as a starting business owner or you're thinking about it, that's the first thing that you have to figure out. Like, is this actually a valid idea? Like, the idea validation is very important. And how to do that is basically looking at what you can do, like what is your expertise, what have you done in the past, what are you getting excited about, really? Like if you think about, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, which is the purpose of building a real business, something that you want to do, something that you love to do. If you think about doing that for the rest of your life, does it make you excited? Right? If the answer is no, then go on to the next thing. Think about what can you do, what are you good at. Putting those two together is already the first step, right? And then you have to take a look at, okay, how can I monetize that? Because it could be something that you like to do, you're excited about, you know how to do it, but maybe there's just nobody waiting for that to do or to buy from you, or you cannot monetize that. So that's a third thing that is very important as well.
Yeah, I like to imagine it as two big circles. One is what you enjoy doing, and the other is what is there demand for. And on the left-hand side, so that's what you enjoy doing. I love the Wednesday next to November test. What activity would you like to be doing on a Wednesday next to November? Day in, day out. What would be encouraging? So that's the left-hand side of the circle. And then on the right, you have, well, what are the monetizing opportunities? And I think this is where people tend to go, it's impossible or unrealistic.
Yeah. And honestly, everything is possible. Like even people, like yesterday I had a conversation with somebody that is doing tennis tournaments for kids. And they were constantly talking about how passionate they were about that. But because they can only charge a small price per person that is joining the tournament, it's not sustainable. Well, I challenge that. I mean, if you're really passionate about it and if you already are earning money with it, or there is somebody already doing that, then there is always a possibility that you can do it as well. So I wouldn't say that everything is monetizable, but if you're creative enough with this, then you can make it work for sure.
Yeah, you raise an interesting point around if someone else is doing it and someone else exists who's being paid for it. One of the quickest things you can do when you're trying to work out whether your side's hobby, your passion, is monetizable is just look, is there anyone in the world currently doing something being paid for it on a level I'd like to be being paid for it? And if the answer is yes, well, now things are suddenly more possible than they were 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with where people fall into a trap is that they see that and they start comparing those people that they are already maybe 5 years ahead of you. So if you compare yourself with those people and you think like, oh my God, I can never do this, because you think you have to be at the same level from the start that they are, that's where a lot of people just stop. They just stop because they feel like it's impossible, even if the other people are already doing it. But it's so overwhelming because they compare themselves with people that are 20, 30, 100 steps ahead of you. And you shouldn't do that. You have to start with step number 1 until you reach step 100 and you are at the same level as that person.
Yeah, have you ever been silenced by reading someone's writing that's so good? You know, I don't write often, but I used to write a little bit. And I used to pick up a book, and the writing would be so fucking gorgeously put together. I would be like, that's my writing career over. And I think in business, people do a similar thing. They go, Jesus, but they are so high production. They are so aesthetically, they've got brand guidelines, for fuck's sake. Like I don't have I've got Canva, and I don't even really have a Canva Pro subscription. I mean, the point is you end up comparing yourself to people way down the line, and that adds to the overwhelm, because you think, in order for me to do this and add value to a customer, it has to look like that. But the truth is, and I think this is an important thing to just mention right off the bat, the really shiny, high production versions of whatever you're thinking are ultimately serving a certain kind of client. But there's very likely to be a client who wants a third of the production for a fifth of the price.
Yeah, exactly. And I love to compare this with Tony Robbins. For people that don't know Tony Robbins, he is very big. He has his own documentary on Netflix even about his seminars, about what he does. Basically, he's a life coach, right? Tony Robbins is a life coach that helps people get a better life. he does millions per year, per month. I don't even know, but if I then talk to somebody who wants to do life coaching, then I tell them, look, some people would want to have coaching from Tony Robbins, but simply cannot afford it. It's just too out of their reach. Maybe also in geographically, they're in another country and they cannot reach that kind of level of coaching. So there is always somebody that you can help that is not able to get into the higher level programs. And that's your market. You start with those people and then you build up from that. And once you get enough people that are joining your program, you can get into a next level with your business until you reach, hopefully someday, the level of Tony Robbins, you know. So people mistakenly think, oh, but if I do the same as Tony Robbins, nobody will come to me, they will all go to Tony Robbins. Yeah, it's not true, because Tony Robbins cannot help everybody. You know, there's millions of people out there.
He's also charging a fortune. You're going to start by charging, you know, like at every price point, there's an expectation. And it's worth highlighting this relationships with around client expectations and price points. You are not charging Tony Robbins prices. If you're a tennis coach putting on tournaments, you are not charging the entry fee for Wimbledon. And the point is, I think this I ran into a hell of a lot at the start, because a podcast agency is all about production and production value. I would look at Spotify studios and go, God, the quality of, I mean, just little things, right? The bug audio nerds. In terms of the audio quality, in terms of the show notes, I would go, God, I can't reproduce that, therefore I don't have a valuable service. Now, you may well look at Spotify studios and go, well, that's the aim in X number of months, years. But it's a total self-delusion to think the only way through into something monetizable is to immediately replicate the standards of a business that have been refining their standards for decades.
Yeah, if you know the story about Tony Robbins, then people will also realize that he started with $0. He was broke when he started. So everybody starts at zero, right? So you have to start at zero as well. And step by step, you can build on top of that. And thinking about what is the first step, the very first step, just a small step forward, will help you overcome that overwhelm.
And I guess as we're talking around the question of whether you can turn your passion into a product or service, and we're having the conversation around expectations in what constitutes valuable, we should probably talk around this being an LGBTQ plus specific issue. How, in your experience, has this played out in the community?
Yeah, that's definitely an extra challenge for most of the people, since we've already gone through a lot of our own struggles, right? Personal struggles, coming out stories and whatnot. And adding to that, then starting an own business. Well, a lot of people that I have talked to, and I feel there's a sense of we shouldn't start our own businesses because we've already gone through so many things already, which was already overwhelming. So why would we start a business on top of that again? Going through again some struggles, some overwhelm and stuff like that. So it's definitely an extra challenge for people from the community. But actually, I turn that around and I say, well, because we have gone through those struggles of coming out and whatnot, we are much more stronger. We are having a better mindset, a stronger mindset to deal with struggles, to deal with overwhelm, because we're almost used to that, right? So if we're starting a business around our passion, then those thoughts, those overwhelmed thoughts, struggles will come again. But I do believe that we are capable, more capable of overcoming that faster, better than anybody else.
Yeah, there's a quote, an Elon Musk quote, which says, starting a business is like chewing glass while staring into the abyss. And you probably need some training before you chew glass and stare into the abyss. And I guess what you're articulating is that members of the LGBTQ plus community have, to some large degree, basically across the board, had a level of personal struggle, a level of personal overwhelm, be it to do with coming out or anything else.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And using that strength that we have to take that into our own business is hugely powerful. And that's what I say again and again. We are more powerful than we think because of the situations that we have gone through, right? And it's also something that we can use to even strengthen our own identity as LGBTQ plus, because people see us as a person that, yeah, struggling with himself and so on, and they don't know what they want. So they should just relax a little bit and just take a normal job and be fine with what they have. So society itself also thinks that we cannot do this. And I think a lot of people take on that kind of mindset and don't even think about it, don't even try, while it should really be the other way around. That's why I built Titanology as well, in a way to show everybody from the community that it is possible, that we are stronger than we think.
Okay, so let's say you've decided, you've picked your passion, evaluated it by this mechanism of, would I like to do it on a Wednesday next year in November? Is it monetizable? Yes, there's totally somebody doing it. Great, I started the business, day one. Bang. What happens now?
Yeah, what should you do? What to do? There's 1,000 things that you can do, and then it comes back to the overwhelm, right? The first thing that you actually should do is talk to people. Really, start talking to people around you, family, friends, people in your network, and start talking about what you started, your business, what you are doing, and get the feedback as soon as possible to hear what they're thinking about it, what they would want you to do for them, right? And surely enough, you will get positive feedback, you will get negative feedback, but any feedback that you get, you can improve on what you say to people, what you do, right? That's like a habit you have to start creating.
So have we already started at this stage? We've already dipped our toe into the water.
Yeah, because we have to validate our idea, right? So we have the idea, we have validated in a way that we see there's a market for this, there's people doing that. So we start and we think, yeah, people now will come to me, right? Because I started this business, I have this, other people do it, so people will just come to me. Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to get to people, you have to talk to people, first of all, to make sure that not only what you're offering or what you want to do is valid, but also how you talk to people about it, right? A lot of people start their business and it's a valid idea, but they are having trouble to really explaining it, to have the right kind of messaging around it. So some people just don't understand what they're doing, right? Sometimes if I talk to people about this and they want to make it so complicated, but I say, wait a minute, try to explain it like you're explaining it to a 4-year-old, right? If you can't do that, then it's just too difficult for people to understand. So start with that, right?
So step one is effectively dip your toe in the water so you can validate the basic premise. If I go, okay, but no one on my network is interested in bowling lessons, and I'm conscious of the fact there are bowling teachers, but I'm setting up my own business around my bowling teaching, but I don't even know where to begin when it comes to customer acquisition. Shit. Also, even if someone was interested, how do I talk to a client? How the hell do I price it?
Overwhelm again.
Bang. What are the priorities?
Yeah. Yeah, building a good offer really is super important, and knowing who you want to do it for is a big step when you're building an offer. Knowing how to price it. So there's many aspects to building an offer, but If you know what you want to do, tennis tournaments or whatever, you will already know more or less like, okay, if you know somebody that's already doing it, well, start with that person and their audience, right? Try to engage with their audience, try to connect with people that are connected with them, and start the conversations there.
Yeah, there's this point about low hanging fruit, right? Like, you gotta just think, what is the cheapest customer to acquire? Who's gonna have the least resistance to me doing it for a portfolio? Now, I cringe slightly when I say doing it for the portfolio, because, that's the thing used to get art for free. But if you're starting a business and you don't have experience in it per se, or at least not experience charging in it, going, well, who would be up for this if it cost £10 for the day? Would be an excellent first step. And you're suggesting, I guess, the low hanging fruit probably exists in the clientele of other people doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to connect with people that are looking for the same thing that you're offering. And where do you find those people? Well, those people will already follow other people that are doing it. But like we said about Tony Robbins, those people that are already doing it, some of their following, some of their audience will not be able to afford their current price, or, and that's also important, they are not able to relate that much to that person that they're following, if that makes sense. Like, you can have two people that doing the same thing, the same price, but why would they buy from you and not from the other? Because they can relate more to you. So if you think about that way, not just about price, but the relation that you can build with people, if you are able to connect with people by having similar ideas, similar hobbies, similar whatever, then it's going to be much easier to get them interested in what you do, even if it's the same as what other people are doing. So yeah, low-hanging fruit are looking at other people's audiences, seeing where you can connect with those people and start conversations again. Yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned there something that I want to pick up on. Say I've now started this thing, but I've kind of heard vaguely that I should have a niche. I should have a unique selling point. Oh, what's your USP? At what stage do you suggest niching down and building a specific identity?
Immediately. That's like the first step you have to do. The first step that you have to do is like niching down until it hurts, right? In a way that you would almost think like, oh God, if this is my niche, I think I only have maybe 2 or 3 people in that niche. Good. Because nobody else is doing that, right? The more that you niche down, the more that you can filter down the people that you want to serve, the less competition that you will have.
And when you're gathering information before niching down, is there an argument to say actually just go do it in a general way and see what people's needs are? Or would you say you have to find out some other way and niche down yesterday?
I think my opinion on that is looking at yourself.
Mm.
Like, who would you love to work with, right? And that can be about your own mindset, your own character, people in a specific age range, people that have kids, for example, or that are married, or people that you can relate with. That is the most important thing. Can you relate with your niche, right? Because that again is the first thing where you can get that low-hanging fruit, right? If you can relate to people, no matter what you do, you will be able to eventually sell to those people. So that's the first thing.
No, it's true. I mean, like just by combining different elements of yourself, you quite quickly reach a point where you're serving someone particularly. Life coach doesn't mean much. A life coach for Finnish expats in the east of London. Okay, now you're talking to a group of people. Yeah. But it's scary, right? Because by talking to a group of people, you're necessarily not talking to another group. And at the start, you think, Jesus, why the hell would I shut out having customers?
Yeah, that's a good point. And actually, you're not. It doesn't mean if you're really niching down and you say, I'm going to help these people, and somebody comes along that is not part of that niche and that asks you, hey, can you help me? You can still decide to help that person, right? for me, it really depends on the situation. Like, I will never exclude anybody, but I will say, look, I want to help you out, but you have to realize that you are not part of the target audience that I want to reach to, but I can still help you, right? So if you're open for that, if you're open to be part of that niche as well, and you don't mind, come on over, no problem, right? But in terms of targeting, marketing, and whatnot, you have to niche down to make it easy for yourself, or you're going to get overwhelmed because, yeah, who are you talking to, right?
It's so true. When you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And specifically at the start, it's very difficult to provide something better than another more established business unless you're talking to a specific individual.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can't. You cannot win that battle if you're competing with thousands of others that are targeting the same kind of group of people. How are you going to stand out? And the only way that you stand out is by your uniqueness. And by using your uniqueness, you're already going to niche down because you only want to work with people that relate with that uniqueness.
So let's now say I'm convinced of my niche and I kind of have a sense of where I'm going. But, I don't have particularly a lot of cash to throw into this thing. And I'm looking on Instagram and seeing people with some fairly high production stuff. And I'm thinking, Jesus, am I running Facebook ads here? Am I spending money? What's your take here on maybe I have £1,000 to spend on it total, but nothing serious. How should I perceive spending money?
That's a good question, Jamie. Definitely don't spend it on Facebook ads because, I mean, you don't even know if your idea or your offer is something that people want. So if you're going to spend money on Facebook ads for something that people don't even want, you're just going to waste money. So the money that you have, keep it. Spend it a little bit on tools like Canva, like Calendly, like ActiveCampaign or Drop Funnels, where you can build a site, email list, and so on. Spend it on that, your basic foundations, right? And not it's only until you get a couple of sales that you can know for sure that your idea, that your offer is valid. That's when you can start throwing money at it because you know that it sells, right? Before that, the only thing that you need to do really to validate everything is talking to people and making sure you can get them through the door. Because if you cannot get anybody through the door, then you don't have a business, right? So why would you even spend money on anything unless you can sell something?
I want to just change tact for a second. One of the big sources of overwhelm I found with myself was I was slightly hesitant to throw my identity into something that at the start had zero customers, zero revenue. There was something like vaguely embarrassing about it, or like taking a big risk, or being perceived as some variation of not solid. I don't know. There was something around that for me. How would you recommend people go about publishing, or get over rather, the fear of publishing their new thing, their new venture?
I think it's partly imposter syndrome that is creeping up, like our internal monkey, like I say, that is telling us like, yeah, don't do that. Just do whatever you were comfortable doing and don't get out there. People will give you negative feedback. People will say that you suck. People will say that you're a fraud or whatever. Just don't do that. That's our internal mindset that is talking. So we have to overcome that by just doing it. Like, done is better than perfect, right? That's also something that I always say. And also, it's like we talked before, you will always relate with somebody, right? There's always somebody that relates to you and that is looking for somebody like you. So it's your job, it's your obligation, it's your duty to make sure that those people can find you, because you want to be able to help those people. So if you're not putting yourself out there, even if it's not perfect, you just create something, a small video or whatever, where you show yourself so that people can relate to you. If you don't do that, you're actually hurting other people, basically, because those people that are looking for you and want to help from you because they can relate with you cannot be helped by you because you are afraid to get yourself out there. So that's how I look at it. It's not about you. I think people have too big of an ego sometimes that they don't want to post something because they're going to get backlash or something, and that's going to hurt their ego. But you're not doing this for yourself, remember? You're doing this to help other people. And the only way that you can help other people is by putting yourself out there and telling other people that you can help them and making sure that they can relate with you.
Yeah, and there's also just a very practical and potentially ego-driven point. Is people basically rate you for doing something a bit different and a bit cool and a bit passion-led. You know, we're in the post-pandemic era of, you know, people go, oh, they're doing a thing out by themselves. That's a neat thing. And there's potentially a baseline level of approval. I'm speaking as someone who's gone through the process of going, shit, you know, like, I mean, I finished university and had the options of, well, I went to Imperial Business School for a year, and that was like consulting finishing school. And it was like, well, maybe consulting, maybe law. No, podcast agency. And then that came with a whole bag of, God, like, imagine committing to something with zero revenue and publishing it. And the idea, well, actually, you know, you could add value here, definitely insulates against that feeling.
Yeah, and that's where it all starts, right? You are providing value to people. You have a skill set that other people can make use of to improve their life. Whatever that is, right? So again, it's your duty to help them with your skills to get a better life. That's what it's about.
What do you make of, because, you know, most people are in the position where they have a full-time job and have a side hustle they'd quite like to convert into a full-time job. Is this happening on weekends and evenings?
If you have a 9-to-5 job, I would say yes. It depends on your situation, of course. But in the beginning stages, I usually tend to say it takes 2 hours a day to build a side hustle that will become a real business around your passion. 2 hours a day. Everybody has 2 hours a day to build this, right? You don't need to spend 6 hours after your day job to build this out. You can do it with 2 hours a day.
Why 2 hours?
2 hours is more than enough to start conversations with people, right? And if you do that, if you spend 1 hour reaching out to 10 people a day, and you spend 1 hour perfecting your offer, or even just building a little website, or creating an email, or a social media post, right? 2 hours a day. And you do that every day, and you make a habit out of that, it will create a compound effect. Because if you can reach out to 10 people a day for 1 hour, and you do that for a month, that's like, let's say 30 days that you do that, right? That's a lot of people that you can reach, that you can talk to, and that you can get feedback from to see if your idea, if they are interested, if that is something that you should pursue or maybe should change or not. But that's all you need at the beginning.
Yeah, and it's worth saying, things scale quick at the start. Like, it just does take one customer, one client, one email that's encouraging, and you feel like you're in a different position to before. I think often what happens, and there's something that's overwhelming, is, okay, I've started the business, this now needs to happen tomorrow. I've got to be Spotify Studios or View Cinema, which means I have to launch 3 email campaigns as alongside a video system, alongside a customer acquisition strategy. And it's fucking shite. Like, you just need to a little bit building blocks. Because the thing is, overwhelmed, right? Fundamentally, the psychology is I can't do the number of things I have to do. And it's a liberating message there. No, you can just start. And if you do just start over a period of time, you're fine after 3 months, 6 months. Not because it's all wonderful in your Spotify studios, but because you have something you can look at and show people and go, yeah, I've done a thing, it's over there.
Yeah, and it's focusing on the most impactful actions at the beginning, and the most impactful actions in the beginning is not building the most perfect website. It's not building the most perfect podcast or whatever. It's basically, maybe I'm repeating myself too much here, but talking to people, perfecting your offer, and getting people on the phone. Those are the 3 actions. I tell it every single day to everybody in the academy, in Titanology as well, because people tend to think, okay, it's not working, I need to do something else. I need a big flashy social media video. I need a YouTube channel. I need whatever, you know? And then what they do, if they do that, if they just switch to whatever is shiny, they stop talking to people and it gets even worse.
Yeah, I cringe at this. This is so true. Like, the most efficient way to find out whether your thing's any good and to improve your thing is to go do it, implement the feedback, and repeat. But what you think is, I can't show anything to the world unless it looks awesome to start. Thinking the best way to go about it is to make your website nice on Squarespace for 2 weeks or 2 months, not looking at anyone in particular. But it's just not efficient. Forget good, bad, fun, not fun. If you actually wanted your thing to be shiny, there's a study, I can't remember, it's in a Malcolm Gladwell book, where they had a pottery class split in 2, and they had 1 month to do the project. The first half had to make 1 pot, and they would perfect the pot and perfect the pot. The second half had to make a pot a day for a month. And obviously what ends up happening is the one that made a pot a day for a month, yeah, it's 3 times as good. Why? Because they had the feedback implementation. Whereas if you're really group 1 and you're just sitting on your website, you don't even know what you don't know. I cringe at the hours I spent and the nights I didn't sleep and the transition where you go bed, same clothes as yesterday, desk, repeat. That one for a website. When having spoken to actual real life clients, the feedback I got was, oh yeah, no, you don't need any of that. Just go for a landing page with this, and this. And by the way, the this, and this, with no amount of staring at Squarespace would have cleared that up.
No, it's true. Huh? You don't need a fancy website. You don't even need a website to get your first sale.
People don't know this though, because on Instagram and LinkedIn, everything looks fucking sick. It looks so high production. So you think I need to match that, but it's nonsense. It's such
Yeah,
nonsense.
and that's what we said. Like, stop comparing yourself with people that are 100 steps ahead of you. Stop doing that.
You know what's really cool? Have you seen Berkshire Hathaway's website? So Berkshire Hathaway are the Warren Buffett's fund. It's the second biggest fund in the world by capital assets held. It's just, they could afford a website probably. Their website, I encourage listeners to go and look. There's Reddit threads and articles about this thing. It's dreadful. It's like it borders on oh my, way beyond amateuristic. The colors, the spacing doesn't work. The colors don't work. The link, it works. It's functional. But anyway, the point being, the reason I bring it up is their whole thing at Berkshire Hathaway is there are areas of competence, and we have our area of competence investing your money. Website building, we can't website build. What we do is we invest your money. And while I'm not suggesting everyone has a rubbish website or a crap Instagram, there is something to be said here that, like, a lack of high production can, in lots of cases, imply, okay, well, I'm really good at bowling. Like, excuse the website, but the bowling's important. And people assume they have to be graphic designers to be bowlers, but they really just have to be bowlers to be bowlers.
Spot on. Spot on. I couldn't say anything else. Like, this is 100% true. Like, also, another example is the website of Zoom. Go to the website of Zoom. It's one picture, it's a simple link, and that's it. But Zoom is like $1 billion company. So it's not about the site, it's about the value, it's about the tool, it's about what you can bring people as an outcome.
I think the psychology, though, is that 99% of the people that see my thing aren't going to engage with my service. They're going to go, oh, that's Stefan, he's doing a thing. That's Jamie, he's doing a thing. And then they're going to judge it on the basis of the aesthetics. Hence, I have to have wonderful aesthetics. Because there's some background assumption that if it looks crap, it's going to be crap. And I don't want everyone to think I'm doing something crap. Right? Like, that's the challenge. The challenge is being, like, owning, to some large degree, that you're not a graphic designer. And instead redoubling your efforts on actually providing the thing that you're providing. Because, the truth is, after a few clients, you can afford a graphic designer freelance to sort out your stuff. Yeah.
That helps with the overwhelm for sure. So what is the first step again? Is don't give about all that shit and just talk to people, right? I mean, again, people don't know you. If you start talking to somebody, nobody knows you from the first try, right? So you can either wait months and months to build social media following and whatnot, or from day one, you can just start talking to people. I mean, think about what people did before social media to get sales. What did they do? I mean, they didn't have a social media following. Nobody had. So what did they do? Starting out, right? Starting company. What did you have to do?
You'd have to ask your friends and family. You'd have to ring up. You'd have to go hang out to the other bowling alley and say, hey, does anyone want to do this for half the price?
Yeah.
You'd have to talk to people, yeah.
Talk to people.
Yeah.
Talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Go out there, go where they are hanging out, like you said. So it's the same principle even in the online world. Go to groups where they hang out and start conversations with people. Now, and this is also a trap, don't have conversations to have conversations. You're not looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. You're not looking for a partner. You're looking for a customer. So another trap that people fall into when I say talk to people is that, yeah, Stefan, but I have been talking to the same person for days now, and it's cute and all, but now what? Now what? I say, yeah, just ask him to get on a phone call with you, to hear you out, what you have to offer. Yeah, but that's I don't want to be coming over like salesy. I don't want to sell this. Yeah, well, then you're gonna have troubles to build a business.
It's a balance, right? Because on the one hand, you don't want to be salesy, but on the other, because salesy is it's a funny term because when people think of salesmen, they think of a sleazy, vaguely manipulative dude. Whereas the more effective selling consistently proves, right, to be, what are your problems? Can I best understand your frustrations? And that conversation is probably easier for people to get their heads around.
There's a great quote about this as well in terms of sales, and that's a whole other topic, of course, but everybody has the concept in their head about sales that it's sleazy because nobody went to sales school, nobody went to objection handling school or stuff like that. So the psychology behind sales is much more than just trying to get money out of your pocket, right? And people get burned a lot by sleazy salesmen because they get pushed or they get tricked or they get this by a ton of people. So the perception is and always will be that salespeople are bad. That's always going to be like that. So the only way to break through that and not come over salesy is to have a conversation with people and relating with people, relating with their problems, relating with where they're at, and providing value. And I know it sounds cliche, but if you don't want to become the next sleazy salesman, then provide value and help people out, right?
Yeah, we started with Overwhelm, but a few really interesting nuggets have come out around offer building and sales and jumping in and expectations. So I think that's probably a decent place to leave it. But Stefan, thank you for taking me through that.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. More to come.
Yeah, much more to come. I hope you enjoyed that listening. Stefan is an incredibly interesting entrepreneur and adds a lot of value quite directly around questions like this. So I'm hoping that this ends up being sort of a long-term valuable resource. So anyway, thank you for listening to the first one, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.